Hello there, this is Daniele from Toolchefs, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can build variations for your agents. Here in my scene I have a skeleton and some skin geometries. Each geometry has a unique name, and the same thing applies to materials. This is because you don't want to have matching names, because during the export process we use the name of the geometries and materials as file names for your material files or geometry files. So if you have, for instance, two geometries having the same name, then you would end up overwriting one of the two geometry files. The way you build variation is by using takes. Here we have a main take and then a base robot take, which has set the display value to 1 for each one of the pieces of geos. And then here we have, for each layer, we just show a combination of pieces of geometry. So here we have the robot 1, which is showing just the robot 1 skin geometry, and then the robot 2 skin geometry, and then we mix them together to get the other takes. Also, it's important to know that we don't support material overrides. So if you want to edit your material for a specific take, you can't really do it. What you have to do is to create a new material and then apply it onto that geometry for that specific take. Then once you are ready to proceed, you can go under Atoms and then Variations and Variation Builder. Here you have to fill all these fields before you can export your variations, but it's pretty straightforward, so let's have a look. First thing that you have to provide is the agent type name. This is usually the same name that you have in the Atoms UI in the agent type name. If you had already some agent types registered in your scene, you would be able to select them from here, but here I don't have any registered agent types, so that's why I had to type it in. Then in here you have to provide a variation file. If you have this checkbox on, it means that if that file exists already, then you're gonna merge the content of the export with the content that is already in that JSON file. So for instance, you're exporting another character from another scene in this JSON file, and then you export this robot from here, then you would actually merge the two exports in one JSON file. Then in here you can select your skeleton file. You can select your skeleton root, so I'm going to pick the hips. And then from this list you can select all the variations, all the takes that you want to export. In this case I'm going to select them all except of the base robot. From here you can select the renderer. In Houdini we support Arnold and Renderman. For Renderman you can also bake the textures, while for Arnold we don't support that in Houdini because that feature is not exposed yet. Or you can simply decide to export the data that is necessary for just a preview, so whatever is visualized, what we use for visualizing in the viewport. I'm going to select Renderman and then click on Bake Textures. I'm going to click Run. And now our variations have been exported. I'm going to open a file browser, and here is the folder where we just exported our variations. So in here, as you can see, there's a JSON file, then a preview folder containing the big textures for our materials, then the definitions of all the materials that we just exported, and the geometries from the scene. Okay, now we're in a brand new scene, and I'm going to import the variation JSON that we just exported. So here it is. Now I'm going to open the variation manager, and we're going to have a look of what it's actually got imported in the scene. So the variation manager shows you the variations that are available in your scene. Because we just imported the JSON, now we have all the variations that we exported in our previous scene in this scene here. So in the left list here you have all the available agent types, variations for the agent type. So I'm going to select on the Atoms robot, and then here you can see the geometries, materials, and geometry groups. The geometry groups are actually the combinations between geometry and material. So the first list here you see this is the name of the geometry, and then this is the geometry files. Here we have the materials, so as you can see here, this is the material name, then we have a material path, so it's a rib file because we just exported it with Renderman, And then you have also some preview data that is going to be used by Atoms when visualizing your agents in OpenGL. So for instance, now we're going to display the variations. We have this diffuse path that is going to be used as a texture as the diffuse color for whatever piece of geo has this material. In the geometry group, here we have all the variations that we exported. So these actually were the take names. And then here there are the combinations of pieces of geometries and materials. You can also have LODs, but this is going to be covered in another video. Okay, so now we can close this. And we can create a new agent group. Now I'm going to go inside that agent group and I'm going to select the agent group node. I'm going to add a new grid layout, a new state machine, and I'm going to add a variations module. You need the variations module if you want to apply variations to your agents. So now I'm going to select the draw attribute and I'm going to change it to skin just for a second. I'm going to zoom out. In the grid layout, I'm going to change the grid size to 5 by 5. And then I'm going to leave the state to 0. I'm going to go in the variation randomizer. And then here basically what this UI is useful for randomizing the variations that you have in your scene onto your agents. So now what you can do is you can select an agent group from this list here. Now we have just one agent group, of course. Once you select an agent group, this list on the left is going to be refreshed, but basically what it does is the process will check the agents that are contained by this group and will check if there's any variations available for the agent type contained by this group. So now, of course, we just have Atoms robots, so that's why we see all these variations here. You can both select just one of them and press on this button here to move it on the right side. I'm going to delete it, or you can press on the top parent. You can of course select more than one, or you can select the top parent and just move everything on this side. Then with the sliders you can select the percentage of which variations for each variation. Sorry. Then once you are happy with your result, you're gonna press run, and the variations are now being set. So now if I go in the draw attribute and I do variations, now you see that the variations now are present in your scene and have been attached onto your agents. If we go in the variation name override dialog, you see that here each one of the agents have a variation attached to it. Okay, now to give you a bit more technical information about the variation builder. What happens when you run the variation builder is that some Python code is being run. All this code is open and you can check it into your Atoms installation. Basically, for each piece of geo we export the geometry, for each material we export the material, and then we build the JSON file that we imported previously. You could do the same process manually by using our exporters and then also the variation manager for building the table. So what you could do is, like, for instance, select a piece of geo, go under Atoms, do export and then mesh exporter. You can select an output file path for your geometry. Say I want this to be exported as skin geometry, then you would select the skeleton path and the skeleton root. You never triangulate the geometry when it gets exported for variations, and you never export the textures. You can export blend shapes if you want, if you have blend shapes on your geometry. For materials instead, you would do export and then select, for instance, Arnold or Renderman. So Arnold material exporter, Renderman material exporter. You select the object that has the material that you want to export, and you select the file path for your material, and then you click export. This will export because it's a Renderman material, a rib file, and then you can go in the variation manager and start, building your tables and then making your geometry groups and combinations so that you can build your variations manually. And this is everything for this video. Thanks for watching.